What's up, War Report family? It is over. LSU defeats Auburn 21-17, and it's time to talk about it.
Pre-game, halftime, and post the whole time the chat live. We around our folks, but we gon' keep the chat tight, keeping out trolls. That's why you gotta get your green name on, your pre-game on, cause ain't nobody doing it better, reviewing it better, building rapport so you in tune with the players, with some quick prize picks so you can scoop you some cheddar. Get your mug or your shirt with the letters. Game time.
This is your post-game show, Auburn versus LSU. You're here with the War Report. I'm Mike G, here with B. Will and C. Dub. Auburn has fallen to LSU by the score of 21-17. At halftime, I warned that it would get weird. It did. 3 straight turnovers and really uncharacteristic turnover by Keontae Scott. He likes to live on the edge. In the punt return game. They got the ball back for him, though. And then not so perfect pass, but a great play by the DB, essentially to seal the game for LSU. Initial reactions before we get to the chat here on this one. Lots I'm sure they wish they had back, but ultimately I feel like they went for broke. And if there's a silver lining to any of this, you definitely found your quarterback, did you not?
Yeah, he had a great game. Considering, and he gave LSU a lot to think about and a lot to adjust to. So you hate that he had a loss on his birthday. Would have great to end his birthday with a win against LSU. But proud of how he competed. I just hated for him, So
yeah, it's tough. I feel like 2 field goals wins you this game. Carlson misses the one at the end of the first half, and then maybe that changes how the staff treats the red zone the rest of the game. I feel, again, we talked about this pregame and halftime about whether or not they've lost faith in him. And, maybe that's next on the list of things that you reevaluate headed into Georgia next week.
I would think so. Because you're going to need on the road, you're going to need field goal kicking. You're going to need special teams to be special. And so if you're going into that game questioning your kicker, especially if it's past 40, then you got to do some reevaluating, just like you've reevaluated other positions on this team. And it doesn't just start with Carlson as well. There's a few other positions that I personally think may need to be reevaluated as well. But as with the field goal kicking, yeah, I think if you got a kid with a leg on the sidelines, you owe it to him as well as the rest of your team. If you have preached competition, then you need to open that competition up at that position. So,
yeah, B, thoughts on this one?
Man, I'm a little tired. Certain things we could have chalked up to being circumstantial that happened between last year and this year, but you got a new OC, you got a new quarterback, and yet we have some very similar results as far as when trick plays get called. The results of those trick plays. Some very similar results as far as what the offense does in second halves of games. And also, getting out to a very staunch lead and not being able to hold it. So this team can't execute once it gets tight. This team can't execute when it gets tight. We can execute when people don't think it's coming or don't know it's coming. But when things get tight, and it's not that things weren't available to us, we still move the balls, but we still move the ball up and down the field, all 4 quarters. We never stopped moving the ball. Robbie did a great job of that. The offensive line, I felt like, played better. And some of that was Robbie throwing early, giving us some room and having a run game that could actually provide something. But we're seeing a pattern now. And now that pattern, after enough time, you can only attribute that pattern to the coaching staff because they're the only thing that is consistent between this changeover of players, changeover of OC, but now we're seeing some things that are consistently haunting us in games, and I don't know how to attribute that to anything but the guy at the top. So that's where we're at, and this was a winnable game, and that's why it hurts. That's why it hurts.
Yeah, I'm not as down as you guys are on this. I think we wanted to see something different, and we did. We totally saw something different. It was very different. You had a bunch of guys in there who have not had a ton of time so far this year, so they threw the book at this one. I saw Xavion Capers go out there at one point. Again, I know it's a year or two, but the team, to me, is making mistakes that young guys who lack playing time make. Now, the line, I was actually a little proud of the line and how they performed. I think they did their best under the circumstances. But Robbie Ashford really showed up today. He was the entire offense, just about. We had over 100 yards rushing in this one. Guys, there's 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in the Georgia-Mizzou game. Georgia's up 26. It looks like they're going to pull that one out. They have the ball, so for the record. But Robbie Ashford throwing for over 300 yards and then, again, making the way for the running backs to get some space. To me, nobody gave you a chance in this one anyway. Everybody talked about how the season was over. This wasn't even supposed to be competitive if you ask any analysts before this. But they found out that this team does have what it takes to be competitive. So bright spots moving forward. Because I don't want to say in the gloom and doom zone with this team. They showed us something on offense. Defensively, there are definitely some weaknesses. Papo has got work in his game. Steiner has disappointing missed tackles. It was a winnable game if you do a few things different. The only thing I will get down on the coaching staff for is the decision not to punt.
Right.
To me, that was the worst call of the game. But also, I thought it represented going for broke. I feel like it was going for broke.
One of the worst calls. The gadget play in the red zone that led to a pick. I wasn't a fan of that play either. But
yeah, I
wasn't a fan of it.
That. Yeah, trick plays are like that. Whenever you ask a guy to run a trick play, you hope that he has the common sense to, if it's not there, just run out of bounds or throw that. There's no way you're coaching Coy Moore to throw that way. But again, I thought it was reflective of them trying to pull out all the stops to win this one, because this felt like a do or die game. So let's get to the chat here and talk. See some of these super chats. JT Martin, bro, I broke my 65-inch TV. Why do y'all make me believe every game? Robbie gave the game of his life, and we still didn't score any points in the second half. Second half scoring has been a theme that cannot be ignored with this team. Got to give Ashford credit for burying that guy into the sod on the last interception. He could play defense too. Great tackle by him. I thought, staying in there and giving his team a chance. If not, maybe that guy takes it to the house. Rick says, same crap every game. Defense give up a TD in the last 90 seconds of the half. Offense disappears in the second half. Coaching adjustments, what are those? They drove the ball down into the red zone in the second half. Just could not convert for whatever reason. Devin says, Robbie is QB1 for the future. Still has some learning to do, but I think further down the season, he will limit those mistakes he made. Again, we're watching the maturation of Robbie Ashford as we speak. I think Auburn fans should be encouraged by that because he is your offense right now.
Yeah.
You don't win games without him. Tony Baker, appreciate the super chat. If we missed the comment that went along with this, hit us up again in the chat. Chalmers right. They need to keep the coach and give him a chance because I see that he will do what he has to do to win. I'm on this train currently.
I saw Tony Baker's comment, but keep going, Mike.
I'm on this train currently. I just think you found something, and they demonstrated an ability to be able to pivot big time on offense. I thought we saw that today. If we had seen a game plan similar to last week, I'd be singing a different tune, certainly. Coming back to Tony, there's no proof of any halftime adjustments. And yeah, again, that's a theme that cannot be ignored, is after halftime, I don't know. But again, this team racked up over to half the 50% of their yards after halftime. They just couldn't convert.
Yeah. They can execute late at the second half. It's almost like they could take somebody by surprise, but once LSU has an idea what they're running,
right,
then it's a completely different story. And that was really what killed us. And I think most of that is inexperience.
Yeah. The fumble The fumbled handoffs, that's inexperience. That was drive killers, putting you behind the chains, allowing LSU to peel his ears back on second, third, and long situations. The turnovers, the times that we actually did give the ball away, those are things that actually hurts you even when you're making adjustments. It goes back to your point. The execution of some of these plays at some of the worst times killed drives. Some of the penalties that got called. You're making adjustments, but then the mental lapses at times, it was just killing anything we tried to do differently in the second half at times. So
yeah, for sure. Again, I just feel like if you were down on this coach and this team before this game, or one of those people, nothing that you saw here should make you any more down than anything you saw the first 4 weeks. It feels bad because it's a loss, but they didn't do worse. They did better in a lot of ways. Now, this is a talented LSU team. I'd be remiss if I didn't give them their credit. They've got athletes all over the field. Those athletes showed up at the end of the day. Jaden Daniels was their whole offense on the ground until he went out, and they struggled to move the ball without him. A couple more super chats here. Devin says, where were the holding calls? LOL. This is going to be another thing that we look at and watch the film.
They were holding the hell out of us, man.
It was bad. Coy Moore is a double agent. Prove me wrong. The good and the bad. But again, I think that comes with a guy who has not played a lot of football, but has talent. So
and may have been a little too amped up for this game. Honestly, I mean, he made some plays early, and he was doing a little jawing, and I was legit like, oh no, man, it's way too early. Let's stay in the game. Let's not get too sidetracked. And unfortunately, I don't know if they got in his head, but and that may be a part of that trick play is he was pressing because he wanted to bury his old team. And I hate that for him. I know that people are going to be playing that, and he's going to be hearing from people back there. I really just want him to be able to focus on improving his game because he did some good things tonight. But I hate that. I hate that for Coy.
Yeah, it was tough. Christian Harson will be gone in the morning. I disagree with that comment. Mike G, I appreciate your optimism, but this coaching staff has to go. Yeah, cannot go this many second halves without scoring, turn the ball over way too much. Again, I'm not disagreeing with that.
These are problems. Those are problems. They got to correct that.
Yeah,
they got to correct that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Robbie, when was the last time we had a quarterback throw for 300-something yards? It was like Bo versus LSU or something, right, last year. It's been a while. So it was good to see the maturation of Robbie Ashford, but also the maturation of the offensive game plan as well, too. Jordan says that was frustrating. Beat ourselves. Couldn't agree more. Yeah. Why does this staff hate Tank? Tank is not I think it's time to move on from this. Like, Tank is not the answer for this offense. I don't think they hate him. I just don't think that you can win games handing him the ball 20 times a game with this offensive line. You have to mix it up and then strategically give those guys looks so that they can get big gains like we saw tonight. Right. TM Taco at halftime, I wasn't very positive because of coaching staff's lack of adjusting. Proud of Robbie. Jarquez needs to start. I think more Jarquez Hunter might be the answer here. But I think they need to spread the ball around and utilize a lot of the weapons that they have because they do have weapons offensively. Robbie Ashford on the move makes this a completely different offense.
Yeah, it does.
It was the good, the bad, and ugly in this one, right? Like, we saw the good, we saw the bad, and then we saw the ugly. A couple of really disappointing missed tackles on defense. Papo took a bad angle to Jaden Daniels on an open field run. Steiner whiffing on essentially what should have been a tackle for a loss. Yeah, it ended up being a touchdown. Was tough for sure. Linebacker play, we've talked about that a lot. I'm not sure how much LSU adjusted in this one more so than we just stopped ourselves.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I was sitting here thinking is I'm thinking about the touchdown we gave up that Steiner on the whiff, the touchdown, the scoop and score touchdown. So that's 14 of their 21 points right there. They gained almost 200 yards less than us. What we did wasn't any less effective in the second half. The difference was, I don't know if it was because they were at least somewhat hip to what we were trying to do, and then we just had to execute. Windows were tighter, guys weren't wide open, and that was the difference. And that's the biggest difference so far is that when you have to make a throw and it's a wide open guy, that's a throw we can make. The experience, we talk about this every Wednesday, is the reason why it was so important for this coaching staff to pick the right guy coming out of fall camp was because by game 5, some of this is out of his system. He's had the repetitions. He's seen the tight coverages. He knows which side to throw the koi on the slant that's best for him to catch it. All that little stuff starts to get worked out when you start at your 5th, your 6th, your 7th game. We were ready to bench Bo after Georgia State, but you know what? He improved after playing 2 terrible games between Penn State and Georgia State.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing can happen with Robbie here, but you would have had to get him these reps. 2 starts in college. We're not even talking 2 starts in here at Auburn in this offense. We're talking 2 starts in college. The first time running some of these plays this week.
What did we hear all before this game? We heard about defensively how high LSU's defense ranked.
Right.
And he shredded them.
They might not be as good as they thought.
He shredded him for 337 yards through the air. Auburn totaled 438 yards on offense. If I had told you before this one that LSU would have 270 total yards of offense and Auburn would total 438 and we would lose,
right?
That would be an amazing stat.
Yeah.
So
I just think the defense is good. I just think that we have not shown the ability to take the top off of a legitimate defense in a while. And I think for most defenses, based on what we've been showing the first few weeks, you're playing the run, you're playing tank, you're looking for Ashford to take off and run. And what was killing LSU is when Ashford would get out of the pocket but was still looking downfield, hitting guys in stride. That was hurting LSU. Even the Javarius Johnson from got a big pass thrown his way. We were making LSU have to account and play the pass. And I think once they realized that, it began to open some things up, which is some of the things that we've been talking about over the past few weeks. This team is going to have to throw rush lanes open for Tank and Jarquez. They're going to have to force the defense to play back and more honest with us. And we started to see some of that because there were some rushing lanes for Jarquez and Tank later in the game that we haven't seen over the past few weeks. That comes from being able to punish the defense. And I'm happy for Ashford that he was able to showcase his arm, showcase what he can do. It's positive from that standpoint moving forward.
Yeah, I don't think after tonight you can say, well, Auburn doesn't stand a chance in any game. This staff still has time to turn this around on the field. But you are now, every game that passes, now that you're 3-2, does turn into, we need to get this game. We need to get this. The games that are gettable, you need to get. So hopefully with Robbie Ashford under his second start, they start to get it and they learn how to close games out. I'm sure they'll look at the tape and try to figure out what second half offense looks like with Robbie Ashford at quarterback. Chalmers says, wow, it was like night and day with the offensive line. Look at how they looked last week and look how they look this week, 100% better. Again, play calling. I've been screaming this to anybody who will listen. This play calling make this line look a lot worse than they are in actuality. And there are a lot of teams in college football with lines at the level of what Auburn has, but they run systems that cover them better. Bama being one of them. Texas A&M's line looks like crap. There are a lot of subpar lines in our league. You just have to call the game around them. Sherman Sawyer, why in the hell we went from what was working in the game? I'm not trying to tear up the house right now. I don't know that they went away from it. Again, more so than it just didn't really work. They didn't finish drives. They moved the ball in the second half. I don't think they went away from anything.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the story of this game was the 4 turnovers. The 4 turnovers, the again, putting the ball on the ground. Thankfully, we didn't turn the ball over more than 4 times because there were definitely opportunities for that, and those end up being drive killers.
Well, the one that you score off of in the first half ended up being the killer, right? That 7 points ended up being the difference in the game. Again, he's a young quarterback. He'll learn from that, so we don't want to get down on him for that. I need them to sit Pap. He just seems out of place on a lot of plays. I think this is a conversation that needs to be had about Papo. Again, this was a 5-star guy. This was the highest rated recruit in the class that I think Bo came in. And just hasn't panned out for whatever reason. So if there is a guy on the bench that can do the job, it's time to start looking at him again. The same way you tore it up offensively and got the young guys on the field, maybe it's time to do that on the defensive side of the ball. I know that's tough to hear about Papo, a guy who is a team guy and does everything that's asked of him and the right way. So benching him has got to be hard. But, again, if you want to win football games, you got to take a look at the tape. Lance, Papo has to go. He's killing us. Again, we're going to talk about this a lot, I'm sure, in the next week. Auburn has scored 21 points against the last 8 Power 5 opponents.
He means the second halves against
in the second half. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, wow. Wasn't sure.
Yeah.
This is foolish. How is this on the coaches? They gave us a chance to compete, change the entire offense. We made mistakes. Tell me how this is Harson's fault. Don't worry, I'll wait. Listen, I'm here with you on this one. I'm not very down on coaching. I think you played a talented football team, and you lost the close games. You call some plays and they don't work, and you call some plays and they do work. So we're going to look at all the things that they called that didn't work. You got to look at the things that they called that worked.
Yeah, so I don't think play calling in its entirety is not where the fault lies. The fault lies, first of all, that 4th and 10 call from your side of the field. Like there's that analytics sheet, that when to call the percentages on 4th down and when you go for it. Don't tell me that said go for it. It did not. That was not a good call. You burned a timeout to make a bad call. Right. And that drive, then that possession for LSU starting from there results in their offensive touchdown in the second half. That was a bad call. That like you said, the scoop and score was the touchdown that decided the game. The way our defense played, I have no reason to believe that if we flip that field and put them on the 20, that they'd still be looking for points in the second half. Or that was a bad call.
You pin them deep, and then they have the student section behind them. They have to drive the length of the field. The way our defense is playing, you could. I'm with you on that.
But there are like 4 other things. I guess the point that James is making that you can put that game on as much as you can put that call. Carlson missing a field goal would have changed everything about how they approached, the offense. Because you were just down 1 point, and instead of pressing in the red zone, I'm telling you, their waning faith in him is part of what we saw on those 4th down calls, because he's just not been accurate outside of 40 yards.
One of my concerns going into this game was the timing of which we've changed the offense. Because once you change something, how do we know how well you're going to be able to execute it when this is your first time? You're playing LSU. Stuff like this could happen, right? And you don't have the beauty or the benefit of executing this a week prior to clean up some of those mistakes. Now, obviously, you're going to go into Georgia week cleaning some of those things up, but it would have been great if we would have had an opportunity to do that going into LSU. Maybe you see less mistakes. Maybe you see fewer fumbles, fewer turnovers. Who knows? But that was my chief concern. I'm glad they changed the offense because we were able to move the ball through the air. But this, you have to take the good with the bad. To Mike G's point, I will concede that.
And I agree about the kicker, but also whose decision should it be to change or swap out the kicker when you've got a guy behind him that we know has a big leg, and we also have one of the biggest legged freshman kickers in the country. Like we have options. It's not like we're Mississippi State and we're out here, hey, we're open tryouts for a kicker. We've got kicking talent, and he has struggled since the middle of last season. That's a decision that the coaches can make. That's another thing that I'm putting on Hart. You can say we've got confidence in him in the presser. Yeah, you don't want to just bail on your guy. But hey, listen, Simpson didn't start. Pritchett didn't start. There are guys who have gone to the bench because other guys have been playing better than them. Those are coaching decisions that can be made. When you've got a better kicker on the bench, I'm saying give him a shot. The same way we're saying give him a shot if your quarterback hadn't been performing, you give the next guy a shot, because they are costing you games with bad play.
Right. You need every point you can get. You can get. I'm firmly off the Carlson train. I just say give McGuire or McPherson a shot at this point. You'd be hard pressed to do worse. Where is Thor? Jamal says. I'm not sure if that's a Love and Thunder reference.
Asgard?
maybe no. Asgard's destroyed.
New Asgard. You know where he's at.
Okay, fine. Maybe he means Thanos.
I think it's what I was. That'd be funny. I was thinking that when he said that.
Maybe he means Thanos though.
All right. Deuce Boogie, I want to ask y'all's real take on the coaching staff. I'm just as high as Harsin, and I'm still with B. Will that you need 3 years, but there seems to be no fundamentals. I wouldn't say no fundamentals. Again, you just don't. you don't have the type of team where you can afford to make certain mistakes in game, I believe. Right. Yeah. So again, all these calls are heightened because it's tight, man. It's tight. Like
the margins are just small.
Small, right? Yeah. So these calls every call feels detrimental to the game, and I really think they're close to something special if you just give them time. Coach Anderson, why did it take 5 weeks to get in there in regards to the scheme? Imagine if we had more live reps in this offense, the lack of ball protection and ability to create turnovers is getting out of hand. Yeah, I agree on this one. I thought after Penn State, we would relook at everything, but it took Missouri to get them there. Fortunately, they didn't lose that one. And it did look a lot better. So we'll see how that goes moving forward. B. Will's forehead, Jarquez is better, or you can't change my mind. I think a lot of people are starting to wonder about Tank at this point. I am hot. AU has scored 21 second half points against 8 power.
I think we just read that one. Just read that one. Yeah.
He cleaned it up because he didn't say the second half at first. He cleaned it up.
Gotcha.
Okay, got it. Auburn was the better team. We just lost the game. This game stings for me. Not down on the coaching staff. I wish we played with more tempo. They tried that. Like, again, it's just there was ball movement in the second half. So we didn't score, but they definitely moved the ball. And if they can figure out how to finish drives, this is a team everybody's going to worry about down the stretch.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Cameron sucks. It was a turnover, but Robbie didn't miss the tackle. Yeah, for sure. It was an impressive tackle. Tyrone, if we missed this comment, get back at us. CM Pat, what's on the coaches is we waited too late to pull the trigger. We should be in at least the third game of this new look. I agree on that one 100%.
Yeah.
But we've been screaming it since Penn State. So if you watch us, then you know.
For sure.
There's Tony again with another $4.99. We appreciate you. Coach Anderson, UGA and Ole Miss will be big opportunities. Defense has ability to keep it close. Need to build off tonight offensively. We can steal a couple of games. I agree with this. I agree with this 100%.
Yeah. You know what? I'm thinking more and more now about seeing A&M first and foremost and Arkansas secondly. Those are winnable games. Those are winnable games. I think we see A&M here. Our defense will play like they play at home. We'll get that little bump. That's a winnable game. Arkansas here. That's a winnable game. We got at least 2 more winnable games in the conference. Georgia, we're playing them there. And we haven't even been off of campus yet playing.
Right.
I'm a little concerned. Because now, like y'all was saying, we're okay. Let's trot this offense back out there, give it another shot for the second time, and we're on the road. I wanted to give Georgia credit for being hungry today because they weren't last week. I don't think it's that simple anymore. They've got issues. I can't wait to watch that game to see what their issues are and see where we can take advantage. But you're telling me this is, like you're saying, this not enough experience doing this to be able to just shock the hell out of somebody who clearly has more talent than us.
Yeah. Guys, I'm going to hop out. I got to hop over to the post-game presser and get that for you guys. If you're watching our channel, that will be broadcast live as well. So you can double screen it if you got 2 screens. The War Report post-game on one screen and the post-game presser with Coach Brian Harsin coming up in just a few minutes. So watch, we will be broadcasting that live from the press room in Jordan-Hare Stadium. Guys, I'll see you guys in a little bit.
All right, B. Talk to me, man. I know Echo Leota appeared to have left the game early. I was concerned about that. We got to see a lot from the backup edge rusher. He played a lot in this game. I thought they did really good with containing Jaden Daniels in this game. We did a facts or not earlier this week where we was wondering, hey, is this guy going to rush over 50 yards? And I'm not sure if he got there. I can pull it up to see if he rushed for over 50 yards. He actually rushed for 59, so he did get over. But what do you think about the job they did in containing him in this game? I was impressed by what our defense did.
They did a fantastic job. Our defense did a fantastic job. They had 185 yards rushing, only 85 yards passing. To hold any team, any conference team, to less than 100 yards passing is remarkable. It is a remarkable feat, and we should be proud of that. We should be proud of this defense. They had plenty of sacks. They had plenty of pressures, QB hurries. They did exactly what they needed to do. Now, our linebacking core left some plays out there for us, because when your defensive line is eating like that, the linebackers should just be able to pull right up and just clean up so easily. And they didn't, because we've got issues back there. But our defensive line did a fantastic job of sacking the quarterback, getting after Jaden Daniels, and we should be proud of that. We should be proud of that. They kept us in this game. We had opportunities up until the very last possession that we had. We were never out of the game until, well, we couldn't get a stop on the very last drive where LSU had the ball. But I mean, at that point, they had given us every shot all game. I don't know if you can ask for more from your defense than what we got tonight.
Thoughts on Marcus Harris? Not Marcus Harris, but Marcus Bragg stepping in for Eku Leota. Once I saw someone put in the chat that he injured his shoulder.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. This Eku had been playing fantastic. I think he actually got a sack, or they got the quarterback right at the line of scrimmage. But
right.
I really hate that he had to go out. But this is why they went and got Marcus Bragg. Yeah. You got somebody playing on the opposite side of Derek Hall. Kobe Wooden woke back up. I guess last week is when he woke back up, and he has continued that play from last week. So hey, listen, we've got a defensive line. Edge just feels on in. Hopefully we get to see Dylan Brooks a little bit, man. I was hoping, you know what I'm saying, if that we would start rotating him in just to keep guys healthy, to keep guys fresh, but didn't see him. If he did get on the field, I didn't notice him. I'm not saying he wasn't out there. I
did see Dylan Brooks get out there, but I think again he's still learning. He's still learning the position for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So
got some super chats here, man. Let's grab some of these. I believe read that one. B Will's forehead says Coy has to catch that ball.
Oh,
I agree.
It was rough.
I agree. Cleveland Brown says, damn, Murphy's Law. Rename it Harson's Law. Coach C4, we had growing pains tonight. The only problem with that is that the boosters or our fan base will not allow our staff and team to grow together. Yeah. Here's the thing. After Penn State, whatever time you was willing to give this coaching staff dropped significantly. People were ready to see some improvement with this coaching staff. And it looks like the coaching staff is trying to make some adjustments, trying to do some things different, trying to scheme around these players' abilities. And I think what we saw in this game was a lot of the growing pains from that. But if your mind is already made up about this coaching staff, and if your mind is made up about the direction this program needs to take in order to get back to where we feel it should be, you don't care what you saw. All you saw is the final score, and it reinforces how you felt coming into this game. Your thoughts, B?
That's it. I mean, if you believe that Harsin was not the right fit for here, it wouldn't really matter that they changed quarterbacks, that they changed offensive, principle in this case, that they changed the wide receivers, that they changed the offensive line. They didn't just change the centers. They could have just changed the center. They could have let Jaleel Irvin go back out there at center and said, hey, let's do what we've been doing the last 4 games and just bang our head against the wall. But they didn't. And that's a good decision. Could they have made it sooner? Sure. Yeah. They could have made it sooner. But they didn't. And I think there's no way to, as somebody alluded to earlier, you give everybody 3 years. And I mean, I would give any head coach 3 years to get the old players out, to get your players in, and get your players matured. Because that's part of everything that we're seeing. It still looks like growing pains. When TJ Finley threw that interception against Penn State at the end of the first quarter, which shouldn't have been a play, but it was a play. We talked about it. It's like, you know what? If he had played in a system doing this for 10 games, I don't think that clock in his head is so quiet. I think it's going off a little louder. He knows he at least has to muscle that ball out of bounds, because you play and you learn by playing. Right. He didn't do it. The same thing with Robbie. He was scanning the field looking for a play, but he wasn't running full speed. The guy ran him down and he made the play. Difference is Robbie now going forward, almost probably because of that play that got made, I don't think Robbie makes that same mistake again. And he's a better player and we're a better offense because we don't make that critical turnover.
In fact, we saw his clock improve as the game went on. He became a lot more decisive with whether or not he should take off or not. So
right. He's better. Everybody is getting better at what they're doing, but they are just now getting settled into what they're doing. This was the first time doing it. This was everybody's first time going, this works. Let's go with this. This is the solution. This is what we need to do. But unfortunately, they are learning on the job. There is stuff flying all around them. This isn't there in a factory pressing buttons and heavy machinery is dropping concrete slabs on people. It is ugly out there, and it's not going well when you turning the ball over. And that's because we've seen it across multiple quarterbacks, multiple offensive lines, multiple wide receivers. Somebody has experienced a shed at the end of the first half against Penn State. And then somebody like Coy, who really just started getting the ball thrown at him seriously these last 2 weeks. And he's making those errors too. But the difference is if you pick the right guys from jump, then we're not doing the same things in game 5 that we were doing games 1 and 2. But the coaching staff has to make the right calls on personnel very early in the season for us to have a chance. And if there's anything that you can fault Harsin for, that's not a fireable offense. That is learning as you go and adjusting to the personnel that you have. He won't get that opportunity, unfortunately, because every game that he loses, it doesn't matter how or why he lost it. The fan base is going to be calling for his job, and it just
those
ups
voices
the heat on
just
that
get
seat.
those voices just get louder. Those voices just get louder with every loss. And at this point, I don't think you would care how we even lose the game. It's going to reflect on, or just like I said, it reinforces your opinion about this coaching staff.
Right,
guys, you are watching our Game 5 post game featured by Prize Picks, guys. Listen, if you're watching, because there's like over 900 people watching, and you're wondering, man, why can't I comment? Because this is a members only War Rapport family discussion. How do you become a member? $5.99 a month will get you there, guys. Get you access to chat. Turn your black name into a green name and join the family. Of course, you get access to all of our content. Let's get back to it, guys. Or B. Let's talk about some of these super chats, man.
Let's do it.
I think we already read that one. JT Martin says, let's see. Not trying a new kicker, going for it on 4th and 10. Coaches preaching discipline, yet when the game's on the line, we fall apart. I can go on.
Yeah, I do think, unfortunately, there were things that could have been done differently by the coaching staff, but if there were enough mistakes on everybody's part. I could fault the linebacker play as the reason we gave up a touchdown. I could fault inexperience on Robbie's part as the reason he gave up a touchdown. I could definitely say that the turnover on downs was one of the reasons that we gave up that same touchdown. I think that was Steiner's touchdown where he whiffed on that. There was enough to go around here. It's not one particular point of failure. Looking at Keontae Scott's fumble, even though he got the ball back, I don't know what could he have done if he didn't. I think we were actually in better field position when he was going to catch that ball, even if he fair caught it than we.
Yeah, we was in better field position. We was definitely in better field position.
The seconds that we wasted off the clock with LSU running a play before we got the ball back, like all of these little things, man, that we just it's all across the board, man. We weren't ready yet.
Joe Kyle says this loss wasn't about scheme or halftime adjustments. It was end of first half execution, field goal kicker, Coy interception, Robbie's unforced fumbles, muff punt, 4 turnovers.
Yeah, they look like an inexperienced team. I agree with these comments. The end of the first half, there were some things that just didn't look clean. We saw a common theme. Like, it seems like this coaching staff gets cute at the wrong times. Like, so again, I'm in between on the trick play with Coy. Like, if he throws that away, maybe we kick a field goal there. And again, this is a different game, and you play a little bit more conservatively, assuming that all scoring is the same going the rest of the game. It's hard to know for sure how that stuff affects, the dominoes that fall, because if you're putting points on the board, is LSU playing more aggressively? Does the score look the same? I think a lot of times we assume that even if we kick that field goal, the rest of the game goes just like that. And there's no way to know that.
Yeah, Lance Morgan, I still think jumping the end zone on the last throw would have been better. Brown and King on the field at the same time, I think it would have been a better option.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing the young guns. I'm glad we're seeing the young guns, so that's an improvement. I'm glad to have that. So let me not. I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth here, but I wonder why Landon King isn't getting more snaps. and more targets. I don't know. I don't know if it's a, hey, he's not blocking well enough type thing. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm happy that we did see some of the young guys out there contributing today.
Yeah, every time Landon King has had the ball thrown his way, special things have happened. So I'm not quite up to your point, B. I'm not sure why we haven't seen more of him, but it was refreshing to see some new faces out there today, for sure.
Right, for sure.
Thomas Sanders says, how would our offense look if our genius coach had started Robbie and this game's O-line from game one and given them time to develop early?
Oh, man.
Yeah, see, I think that
in fairness, we were kind of forced into this situation with our O-line due to injuries, right? Because it's not like Council was working out at center position in the offseason, right? And I think he was coming off of an injury. So I think I think it just happened to work out with the lineup we had with our O-line, and it just happened to work. I'm happy it worked, but they were going with a whole different lineup and group of guys that they feel confident in. I'm not mad at that because injuries kind of forced us into this situation.
Yeah, Brahms to start with. That's the guy with his experience. That's who you wanted if he could go. So I don't fault them for not knowing and that Brahms wasn't going to play. But Tate Johnson was your first call over Council, and I don't know about y'all. I'm looking for snaps. How many bad snaps were there tonight on our part? Were there any bad snaps?
There was some high snaps that threw off the timing.
There were definitely bad snaps.
But that's expected with a guy who haven't been playing center. Like you have to expect that. So
there were bad snaps.
I just think I'm happy that it seems as though it appears to have worked out well for that center position, because that was a sore spot for our offense up to this point. And I think with the coaching staff, if they had it their way, Nick Brahms would be our center tonight. So
it'll be interesting to see. I don't think that the only thing I fault the coaching staff for was not making the pivot after Penn State. Right, the massive pivot. Now they went to Robbie obviously as the starter due to injury to TJ allegedly, but like I think that the offensive pivot is something that it took, for whatever reason, it took Missouri, almost losing Missouri, for them to do. And I've been pretty vocal about just not needing it to be a disaster before you'll make changes. And they got there, but it may not change the outcome of Penn State because Robbie would still be, only his third start in college. There's no guarantee that it comes together for him. And again, what you do moving forward, there might be a grand design and not heaping too much too quickly on a young quarterback and assuming that it was all going to go the same if he had just started early. Right. I think he needed to be eased in. And this is why you don't fire a second-year head coach.
Right.
Because it's things like this are going to happen. They have to figure things out about their team. And it takes games. And you may have to lose some games while you're going through a rebuild to figure out what it is you have.
Right.
We saw a staff, in 2007, we talk about it all the time. They switched out the whole O-line midseason. For freshmen. They started 5 freshmen on O-line because it wasn't going good. It took them half the season to figure it out, but it resulted in a win versus Florida in the Swamp. So I'm praying that they can build on this. And hopefully, with a quarterback who's got more in-game experience, he can make those good plays. He'll learn from this. He'll learn and grow. I thought I don't even think we saw Robbie's ceiling tonight.
No.
This wasn't even a ceiling. Yeah.
This type of play without the rookie mistakes, and then it's a whole nother ball game.
For sure. Yeah. And we have more playmakers at receiver than we've had. That we thought we had. Yeah. There are tons of playmakers at receiver.
Yeah.
That is something I'm looking forward to seeing, who continues to step up from that position group. I'm happy for the production from them. Jazzy Joe, going to get some sleep. War Eagle, Ashford is going to be a god.
Hey, listen.
To your point, we haven't seen his ceiling yet. And again, if he's able to raise his floor, watch out.
Yeah, this is only his second start. His second start in college.
Yeah.
Give this man some time to get it together, and give this coaching staff time to figure out like what he can be. Because there were a lot of people. It's funny. Like, people are like, just think if we had started Robbie. A lot of those people were telling me that Robbie Ashford was going to be a wide receiver a month ago.
Yeah.
So I think maybe give them credit for at least recognizing that there was something in him and giving him any reps early. Because I'll tell you what, if this was the last guy, he wouldn't have seen the field.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. He might have been on the bench for somebody
he wouldn't
else.
have been here. He didn't want to play for the last guy, really.
Yeah, it's true.
I think he would have went like Oregon somewhere, something like that.
yeah. So,
B. Will's forehead, Coy has to muscle that ball down too.
Yeah, you can't get Big Boy.
I agreed. Aaron Finney says if we would have kicked instead of going for it on fourth, we would have won possibly. I did not like those calls.
Maybe, but again, the cascade of calls that happens after you punt that, you never know what happens there. Yeah. I like our chances. I didn't like the call personally, so I'm not really defending it. But I would have rather they punted in that situation than do what they did.
For sure.
And then waste the time out as well too. Like
yeah. Yo, Robbie with the tackling skills, rotate him in on linebacker too. We need him. Let's talk about linebacker. Mike, what are your thoughts about linebacker, sir?
Linebacker play was not good. And there were too many blown tackles. And when guys they had chances to make plays in the backfield consistently. Now, Jaden Daniels' legs, which we talked about in the pregame, were a problem. And as a matter of fact, if you take away a lot of the rushing yards that he had, Jaden Daniels had 59 rushing yards, and they had only 270 yards of offense total. He was a significant portion of this offense tonight. So, you're talking about a guy whose legs were like 17% of all the yards that they gained, and the linebackers had a chance to make that an even lesser number. Again, if you're looking at these rushing totals, I'll be interested to see like yards after contact in the backfield. There was, and then one of those missed tackles resulted in a touchdown.
Right.
And you lost by 4 points. So it's tough. Linebacker play has been tough. And, there were clues to this after Jacoby went out against Georgia State last year. Right. But they're going to have to figure something out. Again, same thing. You have to scheme something that helps these guys. Same way we've been asking for it on offense. I think you have to figure it out on defense. But it's hard because when we're talking about missed tackles, the scheme created opportunities for you to hit a running back in the backfield, and you just didn't make the tackle.
Right. So, and that's not on coaches.
I'm not sure. Yeah, again, I'm not sure if this is I'm wondering because again, we've heard about Eugene Asante. We heard about some of these other guys. Is Cam Riley is he injured? Is he out? I did not see him. I'm questioning, where are some other guys on this linebacking core? We were believed that, hey, there was going to be some growing depth here. We made it just like we're talking about kicker. I'm curious to see what some of these other guys can do at this position. I am Hop with Ashford Wires, the freaking RPO.
I think you said, man, where's the freaking RPO?
Where's the freaking RPO?
Here's the deal. And here is what I think. You're trying to keep this guy, you're trying to keep him healthy. And you can't have your quarterback out there taking hits, man. It's not going to work. So I think we saw the version of this that works not only for Auburn, but for Robbie in general, right? Like 38 passes. He had 11 runs, but they weren't like running him. Right.
Right.
So,
right.
On the bootleg coming out were great plays. He's moving to his right, which is his throwing hand side, and he made some good throws there. And I think that was by design. You get him out of the pocket. The pocket's not the pocket. The whole defensive line has to move and chase him, and he's faster, so automatic advantage Robbie. And he made some good plays out of that. So I see why they did it. If he's running RPO, then the defense has a choice every time. I could just crash down on the quarterback if I think there's a chance he might keep it, and then Robbie could be taking some hits. So, I see why they're not running it constantly.
Right. Guys, if you're watching us right now, Harsin is at the podium. We are broadcasting that live if you want to dual screen and check out his comments. You can watch now and come back, or you can watch it after the post game is over.
Roderick Dunn says two TDs we gave up before half were very costly. Also, I saw at least 3 or 4 holding calls not even called. Yeah, I'm with you, Roderick. Even though we lost, I thought that could have been the best game we have played this year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that offensively and defensively, that was probably as close to the most complete game that they played. It looks like it didn't result in a win, but it looks like it's starting to come together. You didn't LSU didn't run wild on you.
No.
And this one, you held them to 270 yards of offense. So I don't know. Now, let me say this. The LSU receivers look like trash.
Yeah, man.
Lots of drops.
Yeah.
Lots of drops.
For sure.
So I'll be interested to see how PFF scores them in terms of drops, but I counted at least 4.
There was definitely some drops, but it was kind of they didn't look in sync with the quarterback. The quarterback could get it around them, but he wasn't placing it really where it needed to go. The receivers looked like they didn't really know where to expect.
He missed a lot of receivers too.
Yeah, he missed. I mean, a little too far past them, a little behind them, a lot of that from him. So yeah, he's not the best throwing wide receiver. If he wasn't going to be able to really break off big runs, which we kept him from doing for the most part,
right?
He wasn't going to be very effective, which is why he wasn't very effective.
For sure.
For sure.
AD says, hit that like button, y'all. Please be sure to do that. That helps us out. Justin Jones says, Harsin blew the game with that trick play in the red zone, had their defense reeling with Jarquez wearing them out over and over. Hand him.
Was it third down?
It was third down, fourth down.
Yeah, I mean, it was third down and like a lot of yards. So I mean, I don't know. I have trouble with the idea that we lost the game on that call or this call. I mean, there were lots of things you could look at and say he called it how he felt like he needed to call it. They could have made some better decisions, but ultimately, it's in a loss. Everybody does this. We should have done this here. We should have done this here. I saw a team that competed, and I saw a much better offensive game plan.
Greg Wheatley says, but if he stays, will he be able to get an O-line?
That's a fair question. Now, recruiting has been a topic of discussion with this coach and this team. So can he get out there? And now do you have a better case because you had some high-profile recruits at this game? Do you have a better case for saying we're close to something? Can you just come here? I mean, it looked a lot further off last week than it did this week.
Yeah, for sure. Amani Smoot says, I might have been a year early, 15-0 next year. I might be my guy. I'm gonna hold you to that.
Keep calling them out.
Greg Wheatley says we have second half meltdown for 2 seasons under this staff. That is a problem. Yeah, I mean,
for sure. I don't know, but
I think. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
But yeah, the meltdown. I don't know. The Keontae Scott punt drop. That's not a meltdown. That's just a mistake by a young player.
Well, last week was a meltdown. Like it was a punt off, literally a punt off. But we were actually moving the ball in the second half in this game. It didn't reflect in points, but we were actually moving the ball, which was encouraging to see. And we had turnovers galore. So again, I think to B's point earlier, this was a lot about execution in this game because I don't think we looked inept offensively. It was just some things that have to be cleaned up in the coming weeks. Thoughts, gentlemen?
I'm with you. I don't think it's a meltdown. You know, it's execution. It's almost plain and simple execution, but I think it's because we have players in positions that they have not been in before. Yeah. And with that comes the pressure of the moment. With that, I mean, Coy Moore had a chance after some early catches to really help bury his team. And I think he was probably hunting a little too much for a play that wasn't there. Throw it away. You know, make a little run for it, get a few yards on him. But that's not what he did. And I'm not gonna say that the trick play was too cute, just like the announcer did on the broadcast, because we're talking about as an offensive coordinator. This is the guy who called the Statue of Liberty play for Boise to beat Oklahoma. Yeah, he calls trick plays because you know what? When you got things humming, they work. They change the tide of the game. They give you points. They give you something that you weren't manufacturing otherwise. And if you call it when the defense isn't expecting it, it's great. But your players have to be prepared to make the right decisions. I saw something like that. It was an NFL game in the last week, and they had called it was like a wide receiver threw back to the wide receivers he could throw, and it wasn't there. So what did he do? He just danced a little bit, tried to get back to the line of scrimmage, took like a 1-yard loss. Sometimes it's not there, but the player has to make the best read in that situation. I'm not mad at that being the call, but I think in general, we are just starting to get the best players on the field, and now they have to grow up at the same time. Right. And it's going to take time for that to happen.
Greg, I do share your frustration, though, with the fact that we're not scoring touchdowns the way we need to in the second half. That's a valid concern, but I wouldn't go so far as to call it a meltdown regarding to this game. So
yeah, I wouldn't say it was a meltdown because it was not like they gave up some 20-point lead or they didn't move the ball in the second half at all. You got to remember, I mean, second half ball like yardage was pretty even in this one. As a matter of fact, I think they got more yards in the second half than they did in the first. So, I mean, when your quarterback is well on pace to throw for 300 yards halfway through the game and then breaks 300 yards in the second half of the game, I'm having trouble with thinking it's a meltdown. But, obviously there's some things they could do better.
Yeah.
All right. Nicholas Frazier says, looking at the stats, the glaring difference is turnovers, -3 in a turnover category. Tough to win like that. 100% agree, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
Al Dente says, is there legitimacy to claims that Harsin is done?
No. Now, you can feel what you want about, what you think his prospects are, but I think there was A.J. McCarron or somebody who knows absolutely nothing said that Harsin has been told already that he's done, and I can confirm with 100% certainty that is 100% false. Now, they could. That's not to say they're not making plans for that, but he hasn't been informed of that. So this coaching staff is coaching as if they plan to be here, and they're going to let the chips fall where they may based on how they do.
Indeed. Rand Pinson, appreciate your super chat. I think there's a lot of comments in here, so I may have missed it. Hit comment again if you did comment something at us. Jay, if they fire Harsin this season, we will be like Tennessee between Fulmore and Heupel, down bad.
Yeah, I mean, the idea here is, and what happens if he gets 6 or 7 games? Firing him becomes even more untenable when you talk about hiring somebody who is going to be realistic and thinking, no matter how good a coach I think I am, we may go 7-5 in year one. And are they going to be talking about fire me if we go 7-5 in year one? No coach expects to be on the hot seat in year 2, unless again you go winless through the SEC or something like that. Like, and this is one loss on the schedule. There's a lot of good teams in our league right now sitting at 3-2.
Yeah. Coach Anderson says, change the result. It's an ugly, gritty win. That's how we're going to win games. It's not going to be sexy, but wins are better than losses. This ain't a 50 points per game team. I agree, Coach Anderson. Spot on.
But we're so close to being like a 31 point per game team, though. Like, that's what's so frustrating. You see the makings of it there.
Yeah.
You see the opportunities there. And that's what's frustrating is we damn sure could have scored more than 17 points this game. Like, this is the second game in a row we scored 17 points. That's outrageous to me because I'm seeing the talent on the field. I'm seeing these opportunities that are getting dialed up. It's just we're close, but we're not there yet.
Right.
So, gentlemen, just kind of what's your mood after this? Mike, you seem pretty positive, even though disappointed with the result. You're positive with what you've seen because you've been clamoring for change with the offense. You got it. What are some of your takeaways? I know we're going to have the weekend tailgate tomorrow, but what is your reaction to the change that you saw just first and foremost?
First and foremost, I was optimistic in my conversations with players prior to this one. They were excited about the game plan, so it was easy for me to be excited for them. Okay. They felt like the game plan would be different, that it would premiere more talent, showcase more talent, and it did that. And I'll tell you what, if that football team was down on themselves, they definitely believe a lot more even in this loss. Now, this loss stings, but essentially you went out there and you competed. And if you can continue to get better every week, this is still a team that believes in themselves and believes in their coach. So I'm positive about this one because this was never going to be like we weren't projecting 9 wins, but I thought 6 wins. You know, I don't feel bad about my bet on 6 wins after this at all. I'm looking at we watched Georgia just struggle with Missouri for 3.5 quarters. Come on, man! If they can figure out a way, if Robbie Ashford continues to mature as a quarterback and becomes a guy that gets complete and total command of this offense, I like Auburn's chances in every game moving forward, sans Bama, with a healthy Bryce Young. So Georgia is going to come out and like after this one, they have to prepare seriously for Auburn, especially after they just laid an egg versus Missouri. Now, I wish they had saved that egg for next week.
Yeah, for sure.
But they went on the road to Missouri and they it was a dud. And if you're a Georgia fan, now you struggled with what was it, Kent State, and now you almost lose to Missouri. You're losing to Missouri for a majority of the game. You don't feel real good about Auburn next week. You don't. And if you're Auburn, what do you have to lose? Go out there and play with an abandon that just, laid out on the line here, man. Like nobody expects you to do anything anyway. But I saw the talent that we had. And again, I was arguing with this Oregon guy and he was, still convinced that we lost the trade. I was like, no, again, you're comparing one guy who's done it for 4 years to another guy who's done it for 2 games.
Right.
And look what he did in game 2.
Yeah.
And game 2 as the starter, look what he was able to go out and do. If he continues to mature, I like Auburn's chances. You have to showcase more of the talent. Showcase more of the talent. Get the ball to your playmakers. And I hope that we're coming around to the idea that running this offense through Tank is not the answer. With this O-line. It's not. Like he can still get his touches, but this is a team that throws to set up the run. That's what they have to be. Instead of running to set up the throw, which is traditionally what we've seen. So I'm positive about this one. After we beat LSU last year, I was down. Like, we have no chance the next week versus Georgia. Right. After losing this one, I actually feel like we have a better chance than most people are going to give us credit for going into the next week. I saw things that they can build on and get better. I didn't see that after that last game and that last year, LSU game last year, and it proved to be true.
Yeah.
So I'm positive.
B?
I am positive that I feel like they finally found the right combination of QB, wide receivers, and offensive line to make something of this season. It was looking like if you persist with the offense that had gone out there, that you had tried to get TJ to run and then had tried to get Robbie to run it, we weren't going to get anywhere with that. What we saw last week against Missouri, that offense was going to lose us every game in the SEC. But you switched things up. You changed things. You made things better. And contrary to what the result was on the scoreboard, we moved the ball well enough to score in the second half. So we didn't score in the second half, but I still think that was more about execution than an inability to score points in the second half. So I think I mentioned this to Ike, or maybe we talked about it on the show, but we've got the same offensive line that we've had basically for the last 4 years. Well, going back to last week. So our inability to score in the red zone is not a surprise. It's the most critical position group. Everybody will tell you football is all about the trenches. Our offensive line had pretty much been the same from 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. We've got 5th and 6th year seniors on the offensive line this year. It is not a coincidence that our red zone offense has looked exactly the same. So we've got issues, and that is probably the most glaring deficiency, but they're trying something different. And I'm glad they're trying something different. It will just take time. And you hate to lose winnable games. Like Penn State, you kind of feel like, man, I don't know if we weren't ready to compete in that game. And we didn't have a chance running that offense. But this game, we had the offense to move the ball, to get us the points. Our defense held them to under 250 yards. Like, what in the hell, man? When's the last time we held somebody to under 250 yards? I'm like, that's phenomenal.
Right.
We had the opportunities here. It's encouraging. I'm halfway trying not to just get excited about it because I feel like everything is going to change in a month and a half or 2 months. because of what it took. Like, growth will happen, maturity will happen. We will be a better team at the end of the year, even though at the end of the year we could be 6-6, and that looks the same as the 6-6 at the end of last year, and people write it off as a terrible year. Nothing got accomplished. Plenty got accomplished. We got some good pieces in here. We got the people who actually wanted to be here and weren't resigned to leave because they weren't going to be the star anymore. That's an improvement personnel wise. There are plenty of positives that have happened, that are still happening, and I hope that what has been positive, the coach can get his due for, that the players can get their credit for keeping their head down and staying motivated. These people aren't quitting. The coaches aren't quitting. The players aren't quitting. Man, they play hard tonight. They played well tonight, and I'm really proud of the team.
I'll tell you what, if Brian Harsin isn't the coach of this team in 2023, whoever the coach is going to inherit a hell of a team. You're gonna inherit a star quarterback, you have a wide receivers. Like, I mean, look, whoever they get is gonna come in and they're going to capitalize on all the building and the learnings that this team did over the last 2 years, right? Because system change is hard. It is really difficult. People forget that 2012 team had a lot of the same players that went all the way to the national title in 2013.
Right.
And they won 3 games that year. Yeah. But we tried to switch to a pro-style offense, and that's a painful change to do. Yeah. So we panicked, and we went back to the thing that they were doing because those players were tailor fit for that system. That's what they were recruited to do. Right. But this what they're trying to do. This was a 3-4 year rebuild, man. It was always going to be. And that's why I'm like, you just have to get enough games in year 2 to convince people that it's headed the right direction. And in this league, I think we can all acknowledge that in today's SEC, without dynamic quarterback play, it's a tough road to hoe. Like, without a dynamic playmaker at quarterback, you need an all-world defense. You need a defense like Georgia had last year.
Right.
Because all the teams that are succeeding in our league have all SEC quarterbacks. And even then, it's still hard. Will Rogers completed like 150% of his passes last year. Right? And
150%.
You'll say hyperbole, but like, he completed a lot of passes. I mean, one of the highest completion percentages we've ever seen.
He's on the bench completing passes.
I know, right? He completed pass on defense. And they still were, barely just over a 500 team. Anthony Richardson has stepped up as a quarterback for Florida this year, but look how hard it is, man. It's difficult in today's SEC unless you have a Bryce Young type. Stetson Bennett, we thought was going to take that next step, and since Oregon, his play has trailed off significantly. Yeah, right. Sure. And this is why I was trying to tell our buddy that was in our comments, like, we don't need Stetson to play much better to compete for a championship. I was like, no, I kind of think you do.
Yeah.
Now look, you're struggling with Missouri. Show me a game where they struggled like that last year. Right. So it's tough. And if you can find the guy at quarterback, coaching gets easier. And Robbie Ashford in year 2 as a starter, with all that athleticism and the knowledge, could be crazy good. Plus, now this coach is getting on tape what works with that quarterback.
Right.
So the belief in his ability as a quarterback is going to be high for whoever takes over if that happens. Or if Coach Harsin stays, again, they know what they have in a quarterback. You have a guy who can go and put up 300 yards through the air. Yeah. In the SEC, man, that's not something that's been common at Auburn.
Right.
For sure.
Go back and look at how many 300-yard games we've had from our quarterback over the last 5 years. I bet you it's less than 8.
Yeah.
I bet you it's less than 8. This was a significant step forward for a young guy in his second start in the SEC. I'm very happy that they brought him here and that he decided to come here. And hopefully moving forward, they can find something that works, identify some more playmakers in practice this week on both sides of the ball, and get those guys on the field until you find the best version of this team to finish the season with.
TM Taco, -6 turnover margin, I'm assuming, for the season. Think we'll hit double digits? I hope not. I hope not. That would tell me that the offense is actually going backwards. A lot of what we've seen up to this point, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, is just symptomatic of all the change that we're seeing with this offense and new guys and new just learning this offense. That's what happened today. If we're still continuing to turn the ball over to where we're double digits in the turnover margin for the season, we're going backwards and guys aren't learning or getting better.
Right. I agree.
Right.
So I hope this trend reverses. And again, tonight was a sign that we appear to be heading in the right direction. Again, our offense showed signs of life. It really hasn't shown all season.
Yeah.
So that is a positive to take away from this game, despite the disappointing end. Valencia, appreciate you hanging out with us. She wants you to know, be Will, Mississippi State beat Jimothy.
Right.
I'm very excited about that.
Yep. Yeah,
thank you all to the well wishes on Twitter for a happy Jimothy lost day.
Come on, man! You're not looking at that Texas A&M game and telling me that Auburn can't.
We can beat them. They are terrible.
Come on, man! Like there's no reason to quit on this season.
To everybody who says that it's all about talent and Harsin can't recruit, first of all, that's a lie, because our recruiting class so far is just low on numbers, but the players are phenomenal. Star rating, on the other hand, you can look at Texas A&M, and I can tell you they just got another recruitment. Some 5-star kid that recruits in the high 4-star, and somebody tweeted out, if I could remember the guy, I would quote him, but I don't remember. And he said, "Well, at least are people even worried because 5 stars go to A&M and it's like they don't even play like 5 stars? You can coach talent down. 5 stars don't mean the world. They do not mean the world. Alabama had an exodus of talent after last season, and their guys went everywhere, and not all of those guys that went everywhere ended up being very good."
I mean, we've coached some of these guys down at Auburn over the past several years. So
we've complained about that. It's definitely possible. It's not just about getting talent. It's about getting talent that fits where you are, that is bought into what you're doing, and you have a system that can maximize it. It is not, I think for the first time, they were getting some talent that really bought into what Harsin was selling about competition, about not being just handed anything, about earning their spot on the field. And guys who were going to just give it all. We're seeing the fight from this team. And I think that's indicative of this coach and this coaching staff's attitude. I think there were plenty of positives here. I don't disagree with all the negatives, but I understand that as long as the results look the same, that's what you judge it by. So,
yeah, the second half doldrums cannot, no matter how positive I am, they can't be overlooked, because that's a pattern that dates back to last year with different players, and you know what I mean? That's a carryover. Like, you are failing to score points in the second half of games consistently.
Yeah.
Since Ole Miss last year.
Yeah.
So they've got to figure out what that is. But again, as the quarterback matures and grows, maybe that's what carries them.
It has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
A lot to do with it, because that's something we know. One special quarterback can change the fortune of an entire team. As a matter of fact, his Wardam ATL is asking this question right here. Arkansas won 9 games under Pittman in year 2, and their talent was nowhere near Auburn. Why do we need 3 to 4 years? Because their most special player was the quarterback. That is it. If I take KJ Jefferson off that team and swap him out with any random SEC quarterback that isn't Bryce Young, they're back
in the dark ages.
They are way back there. And this year so far, they've still underachieved, honestly.
Right.
They're what, 3-2 now?
Yeah, they're behind
the same record we have.
They're behind schedule. They're behind schedule. They're behind schedule of where people didn't expect much from us. They expected a lot out of Arkansas.
Wait, didn't Arkansas get that 5-star transfer from OU in the offseason when all the Oklahoma talent scattered? One of them, was it Hazelwood that went to Arkansas?
I don't remember.
I don't know.
Yeah, I believe it was, because they lost Treylon Burks and then Hazelwood came in. And so they got KJ Jefferson, they got Hazelwood, but their defense still gave up plenty, which is why they lost so badly today, which is why we beat them last year, which is why we have a really good chance of beating them this year. We are more talented than Arkansas. I don't think we've done a bad job. We've got both of our starting corners now have been playing outstanding. Both of those came in under Harsin. Robbie Ashford came in under Harsin. Jarquez Hunter came in under Harsin. Damari Alston came in, Camden Brown. I don't think recruiting is the problem. The recruiting is his reputation has been hurt by what the coaching, by what the admins tried to do to him in the offseason. And now we are a much less attractive spot for any recruit that is going to be here longer than 1 year. And that did some serious damage to his ability to recruit a prospect that's going to be here for 4 years or even 2 years out of the transfer portal. I think that's what happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Going to be interesting to see. Like I said, Harsin is, I think his reputation matters to him. So he's going to try to do this thing to the best of his ability until, such a time a decision is made. But I just don't understand how you can look around college football and see Oklahoma and Arkansas and Texas A&M and be super down after this game. But I'll tell you what, we may have caught a beat down versus Penn State, but we're later into the season, and at least this was signs that Auburn is moving forward. Now, don't get me wrong. Remember, this is at the end of the day, a team full of 5 stars made a couple of plays to beat us. A team full of 5 stars. If you watch our one team, one pod came on, our guy Jack, right? Mm-hmm. And I noted during that they have 4 or 5-star athletes on that defense, starting on that defense.
Yes,
I wouldn't be surprised if one of them was the one that came up with the pick. And these types of things are going to happen.
And our defense outplayed theirs.
Our defense 100% outplayed theirs, but they got to scoop and score, and that was the difference in the game.
Right.
So I just don't, like I said, I get it. We lost, but I don't see, if you're telling me phone in the season, it's over, there's no chance this team competes, I just can't get on that train at all. I can't. Like, again, if you were down, super down coming into this game, and you're finding a way to be more down and now, that's disingenuous.
Yeah.
That's completely disingenuous.
I will say this, Mike. I think we also understand kind of where our fan base has been with this coaching staff, even going into the season. And we knew that there was not a lot of room for error with this coaching staff.
For sure.
There's the court of public opinion, and then there's facts, right? And most people tend to live in the court of public opinion. So after Penn State, it was going to take an incredible run for this team to get a lot of those people back on the path of believing in this coaching staff and this year's team. Yeah. Once people were off that path, the court of public opinion has run wild about this, and a lot of people are just over it, even though there are some positives to take away from this game.
For
and
sure,
I think that's where we are. I think Harsin, the limited time he's had to make an impact on those fans, has run its course. So it doesn't matter what he does from here on out.
Yeah. That's all I'm saying is, again, if you were all super negative before this one, we don't stand a chance we're going to win 4 games, right? Like, nothing changed for you really, because you came into this with the expectation that we would probably lose a lot more or worse than we did tonight. And what they did was they showed an ability to pivot on offense, right? They showed that they can continue to develop QBs, and it just didn't work out against a good team. And like, listen, I'm not a Brian Kelly fan, but let's not act like he's some coach that hasn't won big football games.
Right.
He's in his first year with a squad as well, too. The ball is bouncing just right for him this year in some of these games. But, their season can take a turn for the worse after this.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'll tell you what, without Jaden Daniels on the field, they look real regular on offense.
Yeah.
And they were looking regular with him on the field. He was their whole offense.
Yeah.
So come on, man. Let's if you're a fan, I would say until the coach is not the coach, for the sake of the players who are clearly giving their all on the field, find something to be positive about after this one.
Yeah.
And don't pretend like it's not there. It's definitely there. We had a quarterback's throw for 300 yards.
Yeah.
Come on, man. That's something to get excited about. And we had who can now our receiver threw an interception, which sucks, right? Like the only interception of the game was thrown by our receiver. But receiver play looked better.
Yes.
That touchdown to Camden Brown, he high-pointed that football.
Yep.
And came down with it. And that young man
Amari Kelly had an amazing catch on the side.
Yeah.
After the tip pass, like yeah.
It was a great play by the DB, but it was a nice touch throw by Robbie as well, too, to drop that in just over him. And then the receiver has the concentration to catch it. There are tons of things to be excited about in this, because we weren't going to be a championship squad this year anyway. What you hope is the mediocre Ole Miss and the mediocre Arkansas and the mediocre Texas A&M, that you pull enough together to win those games somehow.
Yeah.
Or maybe even shock the world next week against Georgia after they almost laid a dud versus a team that you beat last week.
Right.
Come on, man. They had a worse struggle win versus Missouri than we had, because we were up 14 points and they were losing that whole game.
Yeah.
Nobody phones their season in after 2 losses. I don't get it. So get behind these guys deserve it. I mean, I get it. If you don't, you can not like Harsin all you want. But if you love Auburn, you'll find some way to cheer for these guys and show up. And you know what I think they did? You know what I think happened today is they gave Auburn fans a reason to show up to the remainder of the home games by not getting run off the field in this one. Right. Every analyst, everybody said that LSU would win this easily and running away. Yeah, I can't necessarily blame them, because if you don't cover Auburn, you don't understand the type of talent that's here and the type of potential that Robbie Ashford has and the type of potential some of these receivers have. So I get it. And nobody anticipated this offensive pivot either, except for us, because we're the smart guys in the room. And if you watch us and you listen, you are also a smart guy in the room. But and gals. But ultimately, everybody said that this would be a blowout. And what they did was they said, hey, this is why it still matters that you guys show up to these football games. Because one of these future home games is going to be tight. And they're going to need the crowd and they're going to need the student section to stay in their damn seats until the end of the game and scream at the top of their lungs to help give us that little bit of it, so that this team can get 3 to 4 more wins on this schedule. They're there, I promise. But man, like Jordan Hare was electric tonight, man. And no LSU player left this stadium thinking they're lucky. They feel fortunate tonight.
Yeah, they should.
They feel fortunate tonight. I listened to Brian Kelly on their Twitter give a speech about playing at Jordan Hare. He was trying to prepare his team for this environment. He was just like, guys, we're walking into the Tigers' den. We're walking into it, and we have to be prepared because it's going to be hard. He knew it. He got lucky. He got a little lucky tonight. But, I don't know, guys. I feel like let's stay. This is going to sound super sunshine pumpy, but if you weren't, nobody was expecting Auburn to win the SEC West this year anyway.
Right.
It was always going to be like a 7-win team. And I still think they have the potential to do that. I acknowledge that it could go either way if we're going to play games like this.
Yeah. Right.
If you're not going to beat anybody convincingly, then yes, like there might be maybe 3 more wins left on the schedule. But who knows, man? Injuries take their toll. And Max Johnson, do we know how serious his injury was?
Don't know. He came back out throwing after he got injured. So he came back out. I don't know if they gave him a shot or something or what, but he wasn't just out of, incapacitated. So he may be available still.
God help them if Haynes King is starting come the Auburn game.
Oh man,
we definitely winning. That's a W.
W.
If Haynes King's come here, we just put great pressure on a running quarterback. Haynes King and Jaden Daniels with the feats. So, we got a chance.
How many sacks did we have tonight on Jaden Daniels?
It was like at least 4 or 5.
Yeah, we got to him a lot. Yeah, I think it was about 3 or 4.
There were signs of life in that defense, man. They actually looked like they were dominating the line of scrimmage at some point.
The containment. Now, there was some moments where the containment was broke or they were too aggressive in pursuing, but for the most part, they bottled him up. He was difficult for him to escape the pocket.
Yeah,
they start moving the pocket.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the rest of the schedule and I'm looking at what everybody else is doing. And I'm thinking if this team shows up the rest of the season, if 300 yards a game, Robbie Ashford shows up the rest of the season, plus they continue to get better in scheme and on defense and getting pressure on the quarterback, there are 3 more wins left on this schedule, definitely.
Yeah.
Right, but if you're Harsin, you got to figure out your late game blues. I can't sunshine pump that. The late game blues are too much, and they've got to figure that out.
Yeah. RTJB says, I'm back. I just recouped from 4 gummies. Yeah, no, you didn't. If you took 4 gummies, you're in a coma. Yeah, we'll see.
Can't confirm.
We'll see you on Wednesday. RTJBs. That's probably when you'll come to. Raleigh Mobley says, I pray for these guys. I hurt for them too. War Eagle back at you. Sure. Al Dente says, I give the staff props. O-line adjustments, gives it a thumbs up.
Right, yeah. The O-line takes, I felt like, were really lazy. I know they weren't playing well, but I'm telling you, it was made worse by a bad offensive game plan. And I'm seeing everybody else in college football scheme around their bad O-lines while we're trying to run through ours. It didn't make any sense. And if they figured it out, we can't run through this O-line, and no amount of giving Tank the ball. And hopefully Tank understands that too at this point. Hopefully Tank understands I may not get my touches, but team wins are more important than me getting 20 touches a game and still not putting up yards.
Right.
Tank doesn't want to lose, man. He wants to win. And so I swear, if I hear anybody say, we didn't give Tank the ball enough in this one, how can you say that after your quarterback throws for 337 yards?
Right. The threat of Tank does what it needs to do. It's like we don't need Tank to break. The reason they're breaking so hard on Tank and he's getting like 1 yard gains and 2 yard gains is because they are absolutely ready and aware of what he can do if he gets the ball in open space. So they make sure don't give him any room to breathe. And that's what you need. You need. Everybody's asking, well, what about why Tank is? Yeah, listen, they know what Tank can do. That's why Tank on the field gets so much attention. And that's why he gets such limited yards while he's out there. Tank is working for us, even if he's not doing a lot of gaining rushing yards on first down. He's still doing what he needs to do. We have to execute, because as we saw, the passing lanes were there to create even more chunk plays. Like we had a couple drops, we had a couple where Robbie threw behind or in front of a guy. We had a couple penalties, or I'm a little bit at my wits end with the missed blocks from tight ends. I don't know, man. I mean, Shanker, he's a senior guy and he's a great guy. There were a couple I was like, man, if Shanker just held that block, we would have gotten around that corner. Tank would have been able to break that. And again, we talked about what they're not changing at linebacker. I wonder how close we are to seeing, a Micah Riley Ducker. I don't know why not. We saw Fromm have a couple good plays. Where's Brandon Frazier? Like at this point, I don't know why we aren't seeing everybody empty the bench. If we aren't seeing good play from that position group, empty the bench. Yeah, I'm all about it. Y'all know I've been on change the quarterback. If he ain't getting it, get him out of here. And I feel the same way about every other player on the team. If the play is not up to par, let's see what else we got.
Kicker especially.
Yeah. I will say this because I'd be remiss if I didn't say that this. The potential that they showed tonight, I think, will pay dividends for the future, regardless of whether we change coaches or not. So the games that they do get, like if you're rooting for Auburn to tank it, just because you want Harsin out of here, that is asinine, and it's going to hurt recruiting more than anything. And whoever we get after this, I don't think there's enough money that you can drop for a coach that is worth that money to get them in here to not let them run their program.
Right.
And Harsin has, he hasn't really he didn't get a chance to run his program in year 1, and everybody's down in year 2. And there are a lot of trash podcasts out here speaking on things they don't know anything about. Bashing this coaching staff, bashing our players, bashing our line, bashing everybody connected to the program. If you don't know what you're talking about and you're not part of the family, shut the hell up. And I don't care. Like I said, I mean, Harsin, he may not ever get 10 games here. But there was a lot of nuance to how his 2 years have gone here. That a lot of people on the outside looking in are too lazy to look at.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not just about wins and losses, man. A couple of rough years for a breakthrough. Man, if Nebraska can give Scott Frost 5 years and we can't give Harsin 3, what are we doing?
Right.
Right. And I just don't, I think that maybe if you really want to get another coach in here, right? And he had, let's say, another middling year doesn't set us back. It actually propels you forward because you gave him 3 years and you can sell to the next coach that they will have a chance to do it as well, too.
Right.
You fire him after year 2 and you're Tennessee.
Yeah. And then the next best thing that you can get is Butch Jones. And
correct. Yeah.
With Dooley and Pruitt. And I mean, all of these guys that really Lane Kiffin was their one, right? That's the one they wanted to keep, but he ran out on them. And they never recovered from that. Lane Kiffin would have been, I think he would have been good at Tennessee with time.
For sure. Yeah, he would have built something.
Yeah. So, and that's what happens. So you get an administration that's we got to do it our way. And then when everybody says no to it because they see how restrictive they are, you get a bunch of second and third rate coaches. So now what you have to do is you hope you hit on one of those second and third rate. FSU is currently going through what Tennessee went through, which is all right, we're going to get a second or third rate guy and just put all the chips in the table because we can't admit that we don't know what we're doing. So we got to overcompensate. We got to hope you can get it. Listen, FSU has been recruiting really well. I know everybody was down when Falk committed to FSU in the offseason. FSU has upped their recruiting intensity quite a bit. And there was a lot of fervor. They were in on that number 1 corner in the class before he committed to Jackson State. He was going to commit to them. Either had he already committed to them and he was just...
He flipped, I thought.
He flipped. He flipped. FSU has, but it's like when a GM picks a quarterback and they let that quarterback be really bad because they don't want to admit that they picked the wrong quarterback. Like Carson Wentz is on his 3rd team. That guy is trash. Carson Wentz is trash. But somebody picked Carson Wentz. They let the Philadelphia Eagles be bad for a year too longer than they had to be because they couldn't admit that he was bad. He got 1 year at the Indianapolis Colts. And when he got out the door, the coaching staff basically said, yeah, we're glad we don't have to worry about that guy anymore. It was the most demonstrative, we're glad he's out of here that I've ever heard from a coaching staff about a guy who didn't break the law. Carson Wentz is bad, but some GM had to fall on the sword. Do you know that Doug Peterson got fired from Philly because he basically said him or me? They said him. They said, all right, I'll see you. And now he's coaching Trevor Lawrence to a 3-0 start. Decisions have to be made with coaches. And admins and boosters do that with coaches the way that GMs do it with quarterbacks. They pick their horse. And they say, no, my horse is better. You just got to give him some more time and give him some more money and give him some more resources. And right now, ours didn't get the one that they wanted. So they're trying to get him out of here. We've already seen them try to get him out of here. I hope he gets the time that every coach should be due, which is at least 3 years, and see where you're at. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get it, but I don't like our prospects if he goes in year 2. I really don't. I think it's probably going to be bad.
Yeah, all the I want Deion people, you need to be hoping Harsin gets 1 more year.
Yeah, for
and
real.
Then because if you don't give him 1 more year, Deion's not coming. And these coaching fraternities are tight circles, man. They talk.
Right? Yeah,
they talk, and they say, "Hey, man, tell me about Auburn," because I promise you, there are a bunch of coaches that out there that feel like Harsin got the shaft.
Yeah.
The 3rd winningest coach, active coach in winning percentage coming into this job. So I just don't I don't think he forgot how to coach football, but also the cracks in the foundation that existed before maybe they underestimated a little bit how bad O-line play. If they knew how bad O-line play was going to be, you start game planning from game 1. They had enough to get through it last year and win some big games, but ultimately what they did today was what I was hoping they would do 2 games ago.
Right.
I was hoping they would do that 2 games ago. And I'm not sure that honestly, I just don't know that there's a version of this offense that anybody not named Robbie Ashford can be successful in with this line. If there is, they're going to have to get really creative in scheming it up. God forbid Robbie Ashford gets hurt, man. I don't know what version, because the touchdown to Javarius was a lot of things, man. It was a great throw. It was pocket presence, and it was athleticism, all wrapped up into one play.
Yeah.
Right. So he clearly has that ability. I liked his arm tonight. B, there was one throw to like Shanker, I think it was up the middle.
Yeah.
Maybe. It was a dime.
Yeah, he threw it, and Shanker was able to turn around and get some yards after the catch.
Yeah, literally. And then there was a throw to the flat to Tank that he turned the Tank around so Tank couldn't turn up field and move. Like once he starts eliminating those throws, and this is the stuff I used to beat the other quarterback up for in year 3. Like stop throwing flats behind the running back, and Tank couldn't turn up field because it's not an accurate throw.
Recognizing the coverages, like a lot of that, like Tank getting hit on that. I think it was one pass he threw it to him, and Tank just got hammered because he didn't recognize he recognized man. Tank ran out the backfield. He threw it to him. The cornerback was right there waiting on him.
Yeah.
Once he gets better, he's able to again, those are young quarterback mistakes there. And so once he begins to the game slows down, he's able to recognize coverages. He's able to understand his position. I think he'll become an even much improved quarterback.
After this is over, everybody's going to write Brian Harsin hot seat gets hotter, and coach blows game. And the real storyline should be Robbie Ashford comes into his own, has a breakout game. Robbie Ashford takes the next step. Auburn receiver corps takes the next step. Auburn offense finds something but comes up short. Auburn defense holds another opponent to under 20 points.
Yeah.
There are so many better storylines that will come of this. I know you didn't put the W in the W column, so nobody's going to write that.
Right.
But they should write it. They should write it.
AD says it's great to be an Auburn Tiger. I agree with you, AD. Imani Smoot says Kansas head coach has been there 3 years. Kansas is now 5-0.
That's a really good point. It's not that they'll finish undefeated, but you can see the progress in year 3, and they were still terrible last year.
Right.
Terrible. Yeah.
Right. For sure.
Listen, guys, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Guys, definitely, if you wanted to comment but wasn't able to, here's how you do that. $5.99 a month to get you there to become a patron. There's a whole lot of exclusive content that we have behind the paywall, guys, that you can enjoy. Interviews with players, coaches, former players, all there at your fingertips for $5.99 a month. Also, if you want to do some membership gifting, you can also do that as well. YouTube randomly selects people to accept the membership gifting. This is also another way you can help us to grow our community as well. We appreciate those who have done that in the past to help grow our community. Want to thank Prize Picks for sponsoring the post-game, pre-game, halftime, and post-game. Shouts out to them. I'm going to get out of here, guys, but we appreciate you for hanging out with us. We will be back here tomorrow with the weekend tailgate. Ike will join us as we give an in-depth analysis and talk more about this game with LSU. Looking forward to Georgia. As always, War Eagle, gentlemen.
War Eagle.